when two Greek fighter pilots pulled alongside a passenger jet over Athens. They expected to find a hijacker. What they found made no sense. This is Helios Flight 522. The ghost plane. The two F-16s had been scrambled by the Greek military that morning. Air traffic control had been trying to reach a Helios Airways Boeing 737 for over an hour. No response. The plane was still flying. It was circling Athens in a wide holding pattern, right on schedule, exactly where the autopilot had taken it. But nobody was answering. The fighter pilots pulled up close and looked through the windows. What they saw had no name in any training manual. The captain's seat was empty. The first officer was slumped over the controls, head forward, not moving. Oxygen masks hung from the ceiling throughout the passenger cabin. A few passengers had masks over their faces. None of them were awake. Nobody moved. The F-16s were close enough for the pilots to see individual faces. Every face was still. The aircraft was intact. No fire. To understand how this happened, you have to go back to the night before the flight. The aircraft had arrived in Larnaca, Cyprus from London late on August 13th. The cabin crew had reported a problem with the rear door seal. It was freezing up and making loud banging sounds during flight. A ground engineer named Alan Irwin was called in to check the plane's pressurization system for any leaks. To run that test without the aircraft's engines running, he had to switch the pressurization mode selector from automatic to manual. He ran the check. He found no serious leak. The plane was cleared to fly. But when he was done, Irwin forgot to switch the selector back to automatic. He left it on manual and went home. Here is why that one mistake would kill 121 people. At high altitude, the air outside a plane is far too thin to breathe. A commercial jet fixes this by pumping air into the cabin and keeping the pressure inside at a safe level no matter how high the plane climbs. That system normally runs on automatic. But when left on manual with no one actively managing it, the cabin slowly loses pressure as the plane goes higher. You would not feel it happening right away. The air would just grow thinner. Your brain would start to slow. Your thinking would become foggy. And then, without any warning, you would lose consciousness. You would never know it was coming. The next morning, Captain Hans-Jürgen Merton and First Officer Pampos Charalambous arrived to take the aircraft. Merton was 59 years old, a German contract pilot with 16,900 total flight hours. Charalambous had flown 7,549 hours and had worked at Helios for 5 years. Before takeoff, the crew ran the standard pre-flight checklist. The pressurization selector was sitting in manual. A green indicator light was lit right next to the switch, showing the wrong setting. They missed it. The checklist was run again before engine start. Missed again. It was run a third time after takeoff. Still missed. At 9:07 a.m. on August 14th, 2005, Helios Flight 522 lifted off from Larnaca Airport with 115 passengers and 6 crew on board. The cabin was already unpressurized from the moment the wheels left the ground. 5 minutes into the climb, at 12,040 feet, an alarm sounded in the cockpit. This is where the design of the Boeing 737 became part of the disaster. That warning horn was built to alert about 2 completely different emergencies. On the ground, it meant the aircraft was not set up correctly for takeoff. In the air, it meant the cabin altitude was dangerously high and the crew needed to act right away. 2 separate emergencies. One identical sound. Captain Merton heard the horn and decided it was a late takeoff configuration warning. He started working through a checklist that had nothing to do with his real problem. The plane kept climbing. At around 18,000 feet, the oxygen masks dropped from the overhead panels throughout the passenger cabin. The cockpit crew could not see it. Their own oxygen masks did not drop automatically the way passenger masks do. Neither pilot put a mask on. Nobody initiated a descent. No emergency was called. Merton radioed the Helios Operations Center in Cyprus. He said the takeoff warning was on and that the cooling equipment lights were offline. He said nothing about pressure. A company engineer who knew a pressurization check had been run the night before asked him directly, "Can you confirm the pressurization panel is set to auto?" He said, "Where are my equipment cooling circuit breakers?" That was the last transmission from the cockpit. The aircraft leveled off at 34,000 feet and kept flying north toward Athens on autopilot. Inside the cabin, what happened next was invisible. No screaming, no panic. People grew tired. Their thinking slowed. Then they went still. The oxygen masks had dropped, but those masks carry only around 12 minutes of chemical oxygen. By the time that ran out, most passengers had already lost consciousness. Athens air traffic control tried to raise Flight 522 again and again. Nothing came back. After more than an hour of total radio silence, the Greek military made the call. 2 F-16 fighters were launched from Nea Anchialos Air Base. They found the jet at 11:24 a.m. The F-16 pilots had expected a hijacking. The fighters held position alongside the jet. 25 minutes passed. Nothing moved inside the windows. Then at 11:49 a.m., one F-16 pilot saw a figure appear in the cockpit doorway. The person wore a light blue shirt and a dark vest. He walked forward and sat down in the captain's empty seat. His name was Andreas Prodromou. He was 25 years old. He was a flight attendant, not a pilot on duty, and not a hijacker. He had arranged to work this specific flight because his girlfriend was also a crew member on board. When the cabin pressure dropped, Prodromou had been in the rear galley. Investigators later noted that his background as a scuba diver likely helped him breathe slowly. He held a UK commercial pilot license. But he was not trained or rated to fly a Boeing 737. He had never flown one. He entered the locked cockpit using the emergency access code. The F-16 pilot tried to signal him through the glass. Prodromou looked out and pointed downward. Then the left engine stopped. Fuel was gone. Prodromou made 2 Mayday calls into the radio.
Flight 522. Mayday. Mayday.
But the radio was set to the wrong frequency. Nobody heard him. The right engine flamed out minutes later. The aircraft began its final descent.
Descend.
Pull up, pull up.
The investigation concluded the plane drifted toward open terrain due to fuel starvation and autopilot disconnection, which fortunately prevented casualties on the ground. At 12:03 p.m., the aircraft struck a hillside near the village of Grammatico and burst into flames. All 121 people on board were killed. The investigation found no single villain. Alan Irwin, the engineer who left the switch in manual, was charged in Cyprus but later acquitted. The case is now studied in flight safety programs as one of the clearest examples of how a small maintenance error combined with crew confusion can grow into something that cannot be stopped. Andreas Prodromou did not cause this disaster. He tried to stop it. He is the last person in this story who did something. A 25-year-old flight attendant with a portable oxygen bottle and a pilot license that could not help him enough, who walked through a plane full of unconscious strangers and sat down in a cockpit he was not trained to fly. That should be remembered. And the 121 people on Helios Flight 522 deserved far better than what they got that morning.